going, Critter Family? I hope you all are doing well. Today we are going over part 2 of Teach Your Dog to Work Before They Walk by McCann Dog Training, McCann. McCann Dog Training is not one of my favorites. Somebody from the channel, a lovely supporter, has asked that I do a part 2 and continue this video because apparently McCann is very close to them locally, and they see all sorts of, I don't know, questionable training, I guess. I might be misquoting that, but either way, it's been requested that I do a part 2. I might even do a part 3 depending on how long this takes. So, without a whole bunch of other talking, I just want to say thank you to everyone. Shout out to all my wonderful, lovely subscribers in the Critter family. You all are amazing. Thank you for the support and the kind comments and the kind words, and the stories that you share with me about success. And I'm just eternally grateful that anything that I say in my ramblings can be helpful to any of you. So thank you, and please give yourselves a pat on your own back for the hard work that you do. So without further ado, let's get started.
And we haven't done anything about it. So in order to really affect change with your dog training, it's important that it comes first and you're intentional about what you're doing. So even if you're in the middle of talking to someone, if all of a sudden the tension's on the leash or your dog's misbehaving in some way, just put pause on the conversation for a second.
So that's interesting. I'm going to pause it while she pauses it. It's interesting that she says that because throughout this, if you check out the last video, I'll put that in the link to that in the description below. If you see, as I've covered her, she actually missed several chances to reward this puppy because she was talking to the camera. There were moments, with dog training, as she says, timing is critical. So is it the end of the world that you missed it? No. But when she goes to correct the puppy for, albeit through she calls it bumps on the leash, I call it a pop. It's not, super aggressive, but it's enough on a young puppy's collar. Any dog. I don't care if it's a 120-pound Mastiff and you're doing this. It's unnecessary. Don't pop the dog on their leash. Especially when it's your fault that you missed the certain cue. Now, it doesn't need to be your fault if you miss the dog doing a certain behavior. You don't need to be like, it's not detrimental if you miss something, but don't go correcting the dog because of your mistake. There were several times when she could have rewarded the dog for looking at her, for coming back to her, for laying down, for sitting, for trying. But she was distracted by the camera, and yet she's a hypocrite. She says, focus on your dog, and yet she's missed several cues, and the dog ended up getting corrected for human error.
Address the dog, get the dog back under control, and then go back to
such a good baby.
Doing.
Just like here, puppy could be warm. I don't know if it's humid out. It could be warm. It could be tired. He's just chilling. I would be reinforcing this somehow. Either they're dropping a treat for him, or if the food got him too riled up, then I would just be, sitting there and just petting him, or finding some way to reinforce this behavior. And I can increase the duration. But this would be one thing that I would be working on. Just letting him know that he's doing a good job. Even if I'm just saying calmly and quietly, good boy, good boy. Nice and tone, low tone, monotone. Not, super excitable, like, good boy, as much as I want to. Because that might get him more excited. We can proof the dog for that later on. As somebody in the comments mentioned, that it's, you can teach older dogs, more seasoned dogs, that you can wear sunglasses and hats and funny, furry costumes if you want to, and your dog can still work with the handler if you have desensitized them enough. But a puppy, I wouldn't wear sunglasses just yet.
Don't sacrifice our good timing for things that are going on around us, and that.
But she doesn't have good timing.
That your dog's going to be able to learn to listen with you while you're able to do normal people things, and the dog just learns to abide to you instead. Further to that, the other thing that will happen
does that mean be more obedient, listen to you, follow your orders?
If your dog starts to put two and two together, a lot of dogs are very clever. They will see that you're distracted, you're engaged, you're holding something, you're talking to someone, and they know that when you're not paying attention to them, you're not really going to follow through, and they sometimes will be a little bit mischievous, and they'll end up pulling or making poor choices specifically while you're distracted, because
I wouldn't say, I mean, people like to act like dogs are so, like, conniving and, you know, so, and like, malicious, or they're, you know, they're stubborn, or they're just thinking of ways to get back at you. They're not. They are doing whatever. I mean, they are smart. They can certainly, there's moments where a dog can be stubborn, but that doesn't mean it's like the whole breed or the whole dog as a whole is stubborn. I meant more humans that are stubborn than dogs. And if the dog starts pulling or doing this or doing that, it's not because they see that you're distracted. Can they? Yes, over time, if they learn, if you're not consistent. But it's more that they're like this puppy can learn to wait until you're distracted to go do stuff, because in the beginning he's been trying behaviors to get reinforcement, and you have not been giving him that reinforcement for being calm. So he finds reinforcement in other things, like pulling, like ignoring you, like chewing on you, chewing on the leash, chewing on whatever, you know, playing with the butterflies, making friends with the caterpillar, you know, eating the grass, whatever, playing with the mailman. They will find reinforcement, which is, in layman's terms, you know, a reward of some sort, something that is rewarding to the dog, that causes the behavior to continue in that manner, you know, to continue that behavior. So if the dog is laying here, he's not getting anything from it, he's bored, you know, maybe he's tired, whatever. And if she doesn't reinforce him, say she's standing here for 20 minutes talking, and she's not reinforcing, the dog will find something else to do. Otherwise, he avoids doing something else because of correction. So she's talking about, like, dogs will wait until you're busy. Then don't get busy and start talking to the neighbor if you're training your dog. Just like she is talking to the camera. Dogs don't just, they're not just always trying to you know, connive and conceive this evil plan to you know, irritate humans or to cause mischief and mayhem. They're not Professor Chaos, okay?
You know, they know they're not paying attention. But, you know, if you have eyes in the back of your head and they do something and you stop what you're doing and address it right away, that dog starts to know, I get it.
Or what you could do is prevent them from learning that behavior in the first place, which you have not done. You have caused the puppy to want to wander off and lose attention on you. So I don't know how long she's been here. This puppy's been laying down for a while. I don't know if she's corrected him, if she's, you know, just tired his little butt out because they've been out there for an hour or two. I don't know. The puppy is showing that he's tired, so this is more reinforcing, more rewarding of a behavior than anything else. And I would rather it come from, oh, this is more rewarding to me because I find it enjoyable. I get good stuff from laying down, being calm, being quiet, not chewing on anything, versus, you know, I'm doing it because I'm avoiding correction. You know, I'd rather the puppy make that choice that, hey, I want, you know, I like doing this, versus sniffing around playing with the butterflies because I get better stuff this way.
Expectations are the same all of the time. No matter what, the rules are easy to follow, and that's going to allow your.
But you've been so confusing since the beginning,
more rapidly
because you're not consistent.
It's just work a little bit on some leash respect with this 6-foot leash.
Is this all in the same lesson? Like, I get it, they're doing it for an example, but to actually expect the puppy to be able to do this from a long line to a 6-foot leash in the same lesson, it can be, I don't think it's fair for the puppy. I think you should practice what you practice and then come back. But obviously this is all still in the same day, in the same video.
That when I'm teaching my dog not to pull on the leash,
he looks hot. He looks tired.
I want to avoid going in long straight lines, because that's actually one of the hardest ways to walk a dog. What's actually better is to work on walking in many different patterns and directions.
In her opinion, it's better to zigzag and be unpredictable so you can correct the dog, because when the dog loses attention on you, they're going to turn and pop the dog, or the dog will run at the end of the leash. I would bet everything in my bank account, which is probably $3 right now, that when she turns, she's going to bump the dog, pop the dog on the leash when he loses attention on her, because they hold the dog accountable when the human needs to be held accountable. Look at this little face. Look at that little face. Oh my goodness.
So that I can keep him guessing. It sort of puts me in the...
I don't want a dog to guess. Guessing means you don't have a plan. I want the dog to know exactly what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. Dogs and animals do best when they know what's going to happen. They do best what they do most, not guessing. That makes it more stressful. If I'm over here trying to solve a Rubik's Cube after it's been, shuffled and I don't know what it's going to be, and I'm over here and I don't know how to solve a Rubik's Cube, then I'm guessing and how to solve it, and then I get corrected every time I make a wrong turn, or I don't do it quick enough, or whatever. It'll take much longer to solve it, and I'll be a lot more stressed. I'll make more mistakes because I'm constantly being corrected than if I'm not being corrected. Although I am talking and my attention is divided, I'm not getting corrected. I'm not worried about time. I'm not worried about consequences for just simply interacting with an object or behaving naturally. Naturally, my obsessive compulsive personality disorder, not OCD, this makes me want to solve this Rubik's Cube. And so I'm just taking time to do that, nonchalant. I'm not worried about time. I'm not worried about correction. I'm not worried about faults or anything like that. I'm just simply doing this because it is muscle memory or reinforcing. So I will do a video of trying to solve solving a Rubik's Cube with an e-collar and a shock collar on, and I will have an assistant, my sister, shock me at random intervals while I'm solving it. And we will see the time that it takes me when I don't have anything to worry about versus the time when I am getting corrected for not doing it quick enough or making mistakes or whatnot. So
we're going to start off not with some controlled walking, but with a little bit more what we call casual walking. Leash respect. Okay, buddy. Okay. So what I'm going to do is take a couple steps. Whoops.
Ouch, 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 ouch.
Good boy. And a few different directions. Right here. This way. Yes. Just like I was doing on the long
The first
line.
bump was not even necessary.
This way. Good boy.
Now, it's easier for the dog because she's walking backwards. When she starts walking away and doing zigzags, she's going to pop him, and he doesn't need it. It's because he's not ready. He's learning how to walk on a leash outside in an external environment, a very distracting environment. We don't know if he's even practiced this indoors yet. And the same thing happens indoors.
This way. Yes.
The puppy doesn't need to get popped.
Good. Excellent. Good.
I always put the link to a loose leash walking tutorial that I've made showing my Shiba, who used to pull like an absolute little crazy monkey freight train. I always put a link to that in the description below. So if you want to see how I do it, check that out.
So yes, I'm using the food. Okay, this way. Good boy.
That's fine. I don't have a problem with her using food.
I'm also using my voice. I'm using nice, happy tones.
He's following you because of your body language, because you're moving away and you're facing him, and because of the reinforcement that he gets for following you. The reinforcement is the reward of food. Not because of your voice. I mean, you could be calling him whatever names. You could be, you better get over here, or I love you, you're a good dog, or you're such a bad boy. It doesn't matter the voice so much. You'll get him more amped up that way, but it matters more about you moving away from him and creating a draw, because the food reward is moving away from him. That's creating the draw for him to want to follow you.
This is going great. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start.
I really don't think they know how to use food properly. And trainers like this, really bad trainers that use food or try to work in the name of positive reinforcement, I think they give a bad name for the actually skilled positive reinforcement trainers out there.
Him
because people see this and then they say, oh, yeah, food doesn't work, and so then we have to go to popping. Or they use it for the first, like Joel Beckman, they use it for the first maybe 2 seconds, and then they stop and they say, okay, no, you don't get treats for everything in life. All right, whatever.
I'm purposely going to move my body in a way that he comes to my left to get a reward. So it's going to look a little something like this.
So she's going, not even loosely, she's teaching heel now. She's not telling you that. I will put a link to how I taught heel to my Shiba off leash, in a hallway, to begin with. Because you don't just go teaching heel outside. I'll put a link to that video in the description below as well.
Yes, good. Okay. Yeah.
I'll also have a link to Kiko Pup's version of teaching the leash pressure game to dogs.
That's awesome. Yes.
She has a great tutorial.
Now I have my leash held in my right hand here. My food is in my left hand. My bait bag, wow, Stephen, you're amazing,
She calls it a
is
bait
in
bag.
on my left side.
I mean,
So
yeah,
that
like
way I can
treat
deliver
pouch,
the
whatever.
treats quickly. Yes. Every couple of steps. Yes.
So he's
Good
watching her
boy.
hand. He's watching the
Now,
food
it's
in
not
her
like
hand.
he's
That's
going
fine.
to
This is
look
all
away from
essentially luring him. That I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I did that with Adonis teaching him heel. So this is heel. I forget that they're teaching heel, but this is not loose leash walking. For me, loose leash can be, the dog can be anywhere around me as long as they're not pulling on me.
right now because he's getting lots of engagement and treats. Wow, you're a rock star, buddy. Good. Wow, amazing. So, okay, can you take a little break?
She gives a lot of jackpot rewards.
What's cool about that?
So now he's going to be looking.
If you're a pet owner,
All right, we had a little ad there. So now since she's got him so riled up with the food, I don't usually use like treats on a walk. I use the walk as the real life reward, as you'll be able to see if you look in the, at the video I teach when teaching, loose leash walking. If I need to use treats, then I absolutely will. If I'm working on a dog with reactivity, I will absolutely use treats while we're outside walking because we're teaching something different than just loose leash walking. But I'll start with loose leash and then we work on the reactivity. But anywho, this little puppy has been so amped up again now with the reward that now when she gets down on his level, he's probably going to be trying to paw at her, get into the, as she says, bait bag or the treat pouch. I would wait at this time standing. This would be the time I would wait to be standing until he's, a little bit more calm. Then I could get down on his level. Or if I get down on his level, I would expect him to want to jump up and be all excitable because we got him all, excited.
Move around in a few different directions and get him moving up my left-hand side.
So I do wonder, while they have this voiceover, they're putting this clip over the actual recording. So I wonder what she's doing now behind this scene here that they're replaying for you. I wonder, because she's still talking. It's not really a voiceover, it's real time. So I wonder if she's correcting him at all. And they're just putting this over it to hide it. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Interesting. If I was restricted to being on the sidewalk, where
now really short, tight leash. She gets, okay, so when we see her like this with a short, tight leash, we got this grip, this death grip looking, grip on it. Come on, Baker. Come on. Ellie's squeaking and squawking. Yeah, cute little crazy girl. Now she's playing with the sock. But we see this death grip. This is what I mean about timing and feel. The more tension, she's putting tension on this puppy now, even though she was just teaching him to be on loose leash. And when she grabbed for the collar earlier to put the leash on, people think I'm like, okay, come on, like that's too much. This is what I think of when I'm working with an animal. I want them to be soft, and so to be soft. Sorry, I'm throwing a sock at my kitten. To her, not at her. If I want an animal to be soft, then I have to act soft. So I'm going to go for the collar smoothly, not going and gripping and doing all this and that. I mean, can you proof them for that? Sure. But especially with the young puppy, I don't want a tight grip like this. I don't want some tight leash. I want it loose, and I'm going to hold it at the end of it and let the dog wander around me wherever they want to. And if they get tight, then I will apply the softest amount of pressure possible. It's not even coming off my head to get them to come back.
Or, all of a sudden somebody walks
and now that he's pawing, she doesn't realize that she's reinforcing him for pawing and getting excited. And somebody else actually on the channel pointed that out.
Walk by somebody that has a dog behind a fence or whatever it might be.
And when she's talking with the leash like that, it can be, doing this to the dog.
Where there's really not much going on.
And so the dog may learn to ignore that. For me, the reason why I'm so soft on leash, and I want to be very particular about the way I interact with the dog with the leash on, is because I want them to be able to listen to this as a cue. So that way, if they pull, it's just this much tension or this much tension, and they soften. If I'm talking like this all the time, they're going to learn to ignore it. That's why I make a point about being soft on the leash and the collar grab and all that. There's a method to my madness. I'm not just anal.
And I can get lots and lots of rewards for him making really good choices. One of the final things that I need to make sure that my puppy understands before we head out onto the sidewalk and we are possibly going to, be interacted with distractions, I need to make sure
I
that
wouldn't
he
say he's ready for the
understands
sidewalk
what to
yet,
do
but
when he's
I don't know
faced
that
with
that's
the
what she's
distraction.
saying.
Is he just going to pull and drag me towards that thing, or is he going to understand to leave it and then move with me? So when
Well,
it comes
that's
to
why
teaching,
you work on stationary, like Zach George says. It's what does he say? It's screensaver training. I would step if I'm working indoors, and I would step just outside the front door, and we would just stand there, and the dog can be on the 6-foot leash doing whatever they want. And if they're calm, after every 30 seconds, I might give them a treat. In the beginning, I might give them a treat every 10 or 15 seconds, whatever. And then we can move a little bit further down the walkway, the driveway, to the mailbox, a little bit past the mailbox, and then we go back home. And we work our way, increasing that distance, and we go to new environments. When we go to a new environment, I want to make sure that there's less distraction there than the previous environment. I'm not going to go to like Lowe's at the busiest time during a Christmas rush, and go work inside the store. I might go and just work inside the car like I did with Adonis, where we go to a parking lot, we go and work outside the parking lot, we go inside the store, just in the doorway, and we come back home. Go back in the store, go a little bit further, and then go back. That's how I proof animals.
dog to listen around distractions, you want to start off by using something that's fairly distracting but not impossible for them to deal with. And what I'm doing is I'm basically mimicking distractions that he's going to see on the street, whether it might be garbage on the sidewalk. We might work up to working with a person or maybe another dog that's nearby. I'm just starting with
so he's already been,
but
I mean, if she's doing this all in one lesson, that's a lot for this puppy to take in. He's not really learning anymore. He's exhausted. So I get it's for the sake of the video, but I mean, you can come back in a couple of hours, in an hour, come back a couple days in a row. I mean, I'm sure they're going to have this puppy with them for that long, or use another puppy, whatever. I'm just saying that this is, again, something that I see. Doesn't mean that everybody else has to see it, or I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. This is just how I do things.
I might add distractions, 5 or 10, sort of create a little landmine around me, because I want him to
That's very advanced if you're going to do that, which is great. I did that with Adonis, but I worked our way up to it. I didn't just say, here you go, here's a bunch of popcorn and toys and cat toys and cat treats everywhere, and ignore it, because then you rely on you rely on correction.
It's also really important that when you're working with a distraction that you do have something that's pretty high value that can go to battle with that distraction.
Good,
so
very good.
If I was using his favorite toy and then just, kibble or something low value,
exactly,
I might not get the same responses. But I have.
But see, he's not really into you. He's only here because he's tethered on a leash. What's up, baby girl? Say hi, Ellie. Want to say hi? She's getting big. Bigger and cuter by the day. Hi. Good boy. Good girl. I'm so used to saying boy. Anyway. I'll leave a link to how I taught Adonis, how I show an example of how I taught Adonis in the description below.
You treats today, and I'm going to battle against the tug toy. But you're going to change up your distractions, and if this distraction is too difficult, you're either going to have the distraction be farther away from you and your puppy, or choose something that is just, a little bit less tempting for your puppy until you're ready to make it harder. So I'm going to put that toy out. Oh, let him check it out for a second. Now what I'm going to do, because I know that...
So she's creating tension. He doesn't know how to give in to tension yet. Again, she's working too fast. What are you doing, crazy girl? She's working too fast, and he knows that his toy. So she said, I'm going to let him check it out, but she's letting him check it out while he's on tension.
Know this perfectly yet, as I'm going to use a bit of food.
No doubt he doesn't know it perfectly.
Yes, good boy, this way. Good. So I'm just going to get him walking, and then we're going to walk, leave it. Yes.
Good. That wasn't bad.
I'm going to walk closer to that distraction. Now you'll notice I said leave it. As soon as I felt him speed up.
Good.
Yes, good boy, towards the toy. Actually, because I had such good timing there, we have a puppy that says, I know the toy's there, but I'm making good choices. Can we walk closer to it? Let's go.
I would have rewarded there.
Yes, leave it. Yes, good.
Now he did leave it because of the leash. I mean, I agree that like I want a leash there, but I would have him on a harness to keep him from getting to it. I'm going to play a quick clip here, and the link will also be in the description below of an example of how I showed Adonis leave it. Okay, so here is a video way back when I had 400 subscribers, and this is in motion, so it's a little bit more in depth. The kitten food is for Hermes. This is a couple years back when my good boy was still around. Rest in peace, good boy, my little prince. Anywho, this was like a silly little thing, and in emotion is a little bit more advanced. So I'm just going to show you how I taught, leave it in general. Let's see if I can get to the point where I'm showing in action.
Otherwise, if I just say, if I just hand it to them, then I can again say, leave it. Good. And then I take it away and I rework with a different one. I'm wearing a hat, by the way. You may probably not have even noticed, but because I'm hiding a very bad haircut. That's totally bad.
That's a common occurrence with me because I cut my own hair.
I can drop a couple of treats. Leave it.
Oh, look at that little face.
Okay, go ahead. Get a couple. You can eat. Are you going to slide? Go ahead.
So I guess that's that. Okay, so here's a part of him in action, and this is a piece of cat food that he loves.
You don't have to do that. This is just how I'm doing it. This is kind of a trial and error session I'm doing. I'm not necessarily instructing anybody to go out there and do this. If you do want to do it this way, you certainly can. Good boy. So I'm going to leave it. I'm really making it hard for him.
And if he goes for the cat food, I really don't care.
Leave it. Yes, good man.
So there's that in action. Let's look at, and here we have a clip of me showing the beginning to the leave it cue.
We're going to be using this needs a little more advanced, but I know.
Oh my god, boy.
Here, which is going to be
So I'm trying to get Hermes distracted.
It's going to be a little bit of advanced work, but I can still be rewarded for not going after Hermes for that treatment. So say we have
Look at the little face.
treat in our hand. Something our dog doesn't necessarily care about getting. He does. But if they do go for it, they can sniff it at first. If you're using a piece of food first, piece of their kibble, they want to go sniff. Then you just pull it away, show it again, wait just a half a second.
Ellie is being a little
not
monkey.
go for it, and then reward with a different treat.
A little bit with Hermes, keep him.
Kind of hard to control and talk at the same time, so I'm going to try and do my best.
So see, this is an example of me going straight for training and not worrying about the video. So I say start at a distance, not in front of their face.
Show him this little reward, and you're going to have a high value, or you're going to have a high rate of reinforcement as well.
So again, if you want to see this video, it will be linked in the description below. The more advanced one of him in motion can also be linked below.
He just kind of does that.
Little Hermes. And those are just a couple of examples of showing how I worked with my own Shiba.
Here it is. Good. Let's try this way. Good. Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with
Try
this.
going past
I think
the
she's
beginning.
doing fine.
Leave it. Whoa! Jackpot! Yay! As you can see, Steven did awesome with our little distraction with our tug toy. So for this puppy, I would actually start to up the ante in terms of the difficulty of the distraction. So I'm actually going to have did awesome with our little distraction with our tug toy. So for this puppy, I would actually start to up the ante in terms of the difficulty of the distraction. So I'm actually going to have
I would actually work.
somebody come
I mean,
out
he might
and
need some water. He's had a lot of food. He's been doing a lot of work. He might need a little break. I would say that continue working on that. I wouldn't go to advanced work just yet. I would really want to make sure that I can actually do it without having to lure him in place all the time. I want him to be able to walk around without the vision of treats, without, that knowing that there's treats here, and have him walk by and then give him a reward and then walk by a few more times, walk over it, have it in motion and then reward and work your way up to that before I add different distractions. Then I want to practice this in different environments. I'm going to go ahead and end this video here because it's been a good little bit, and we'll be back for part 3. So keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. Let me know what you think of this part of the video. Go say how you do to your little critters and say how do you do for me. Give them some kind of loving. Until next time, practice peace, patience, and positivity.